Okay. Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning everyone. Thank you for attending our RURB webinar series number 24. So this is the second installation of RURB webinar series related to food security and food supply chain. So today our speaker, Dr. Illisriyani Ismail, will be talking about a topic that is very close and very dear to our heart, which is the impact of COVID-19 on Malaysia's food supply chain. So before I introduce Dr. Illisriyani, let me brief some housekeeping rules. So if you have any questions, you can address it in the Q&A section on your screen. It can be Bahasa or English. Today will be informal session, yeah. Okay. Before I handed the floor to Dr. Illisriyani, let me introduce Dr. So Dr. Illisriyani Ismail is a senior research officer at Institute of Tropical Agriculture and Food Security at University Putra Malaysia of UPM. She graduated from University of Portsmouth in the United Kingdom, specializing in fisheries economics using system dynamic approach. Dr. Illis is very passionate in helping developing countries to grow sustainably, and she very passionate on how to show these countries on how to place a monetary value in the protection of the natural environment. Dr. Illis has been helping both government and private research institute like Hazana Research Institute and international organization like the World Bank with her expertise. So without further ado, let me invite Dr. Illis to continue with her presentation.
All right. Thank you very much, Hannah, for the humble opening for me. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all the attendees, whether through Zoom or Facebook. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to MPC for the invitation and allowing me to present on today's topic, the impact of COVID-19 on Malaysia's food supply chain. So next slide, Hannah. So I would like to start with by refreshing us about the current COVID cases in Malaysia. And this figure is courtesy of Datin Paduka Professor Dr. Fatimah Muhammad Arshad. She has shared these figures with me. So up until yesterday, we have 36,434 cases with 25,000 recovered. And yesterday we had 1,009 new cases, and total of under treatment there are 10,504 patients. And also this COVID-19, it took place on 24th January with 3 cases, and imagine now we have more than almost 40,000 cases, and we hope that with that as time goes by, the cases will reduce and we can have our normal life back again. Next slide, Hannah. And this figure shows when we started our MCO, the first phase, which was on 18 March. And then the second MCO was the 1st of April up until 14 April. And we have the third MCO from 15 April to 28 April, and 5th, 29 April, and we started to have CMCO in May up until June, and now we are in recovery movement control order from June up until December. So you can see the growth is between 1.3 to 2.6. From September to October is quite high. So we just have to, bear in mind that the less we go out, the less cases we can contribute to. And we hope, like I said, this number of cases will reduce as we go by. And hopefully by early next year, we can have our life back. So before I start discussing about the food supply chain, We'll go through the outline of today's presentation. So I'll start with what we know about food supply chain. And then we will compare between conventional or traditional food supply chain with modern supply chain. And then first took notice of COVID-19, how that occurs, and what happened or disruption that it has done to the food supply chain, and the impact on the agriculture industry, and what we have learned throughout the process of this MCO, CMCO, and RMCO. Next slide, Hannah. So what we know about food supply chain, there are two things here. It consists of processes and activities that take food from raw material and to prepare it for our plate, from farm to fork, or from farm to our plate. And also it's a complex web of interactions and of actors, like the producers, inputs, transportation, processing plants, shipping, etc. So here you can see a very general framework of food supply chain. Agriculture that involves supplier, the production, transport, and consumer. So each of these what we call that actors, it has its own underlying parameters. For example, the agriculture, it consists of sustainable resource utilization, like water and energy, and then sustainable soil management. And for supplier, you have sustainable resource. It's the same thing. So all these components is very important in food supply chain, just in making sure that everything is stable. Next slide. So from those process of from the framework just now, we have the producers, the processors, the wholesalers and distributors, retailers and consumers. So as we go along this supply chain, each of it has its own cost. Here, the producers, they have the raw materials and input, which affect the utility costs, the labor costs, the machinery costs. And then for processors, they have their own labor costs, utility costs, and infrastructure. Even for wholesalers, and they have even overhead expenses. And retailers, they have as well utility, labor costs, and overhead expenses. And consumers, of course, we don't have costs, but we do spend money to have the access to the food throughout the chain. Next slide. So this third thing that I want to highlight is between the conventional and also modern supply chain. So for the past 20 years, we were using this conventional supply chain. So from farm or producer, we have at the farm level, we have the buyer, like agents and assemblers. And then from there, we have the wholesaler. And then this wholesaler, it plays two roles. They can export and import. And then we also have the retailer that will purchase the product from the wholesaler and straight to the consumer. That was the conventional supply chain. And this is a fragmented production. We have multi-layered channel, and it's also undifferentiated product, focus on distribute function, minimal grading, and predominance of wholesaler, where wholesaler that dominate the whole chain, and then producer that push the market. And then on the right side, we have the modern supply chain. So this modern supply chain is consumer oriented, which is different from the conventional, which is production oriented. So you can see here from producer, from the farmers or producer, we have the wholesaler, and then this wholesaler they can export, and also can be sold to retailers. And under retailers, we have groceries stores, and then we also have convenience stores, etc. And then from wholesaler just now, not only it is export, but it is also act as a new retailer where we have the supermarket, we have the supermarket chain and also hypermarket, warehouse, and they act as a key for to import more food coming in. And then only we have the consumer. So the difference between conventional and modern supply chain, next slide, Hannah. So these six keys are the major difference between the traditional and also the modern supply chain. So as I highlighted earlier, the new supply chain process, it is rather than economic agents as in the traditional marketing paradigm. So because the modern is more on the consumer driven, whereas the traditional is more on the production driven. And the focal intermediaries are the retailers as compared to the wholesalers in the conventional marketing system. And this production and marketing is closely knit and based on value chains. So the marketing channels, they are short with a well-defined function. So not much functions been happening in the conventional, but in modern supply chain, there's more options or opportunity in terms of the value chains. And in terms of production and processes is driven by technology to customize products, where this include having the labeling for food safety. So because these days, in terms of the demand, not only from within Malaysia, but also when you export a product, people are particular in terms of the food safety. So private labeling is very crucial in these days food supply chain. Next slide, Hannah. So I would like to take back everyone, when does the COVID-19 took place? So we noticed at this COVID-19 in Wuhan, Hubei, China, at the end of January 2020. So at that time, we thought that it's only going to be happen only in China. And but then what happened is that it started to spread. So the initial reaction to this unprecedented lockdown in China with a population of 11 million was mixed. I mean, not in China, but in Wuhan, there are 11 million. So many of us we were going against saying that it's an impractical strategy to curb the virus. So the Wuhan lockdown was a clear warning to the world that the infectious disease would not be an easy one to subdue because it starts spreading from one city to another city. And at that time, it started to affect Italy, Spain, the EU countries. So, and this COVID-19, the spread was quick, and we were left little time to plan on how to curb the virus from coming in. So that was what happened in January, between January to March. Next slide, Anna. So when this COVID-19 happened, FAO has, they have come out with the COVID-19 impact on the food security and as well as the food supply chain. So this is taken from FAO. So what happened in terms of the supply chain? Supply side. Supply side is consists of the producers, the wholesalers, the retailers, supermarkets, hypermarkets. They are in the supply side. So what happens that in terms of food, there will be less production, but it's unnoticed. But unnoticeable at the moment, and we have lower freight rates, lower capacity use, food supply chain to be disrupted as of April and May. So this is at the beginning when COVID happened. And for example, in developing countries and even in Africa, what happens is that, including in Malaysia, we have reduction in labor force, and this affecting labor intensive forms of production agriculture, especially in agriculture, because when COVID happened, some of us, when the lockdown happened, when MCO happened as well, so most of us, we are not allowed to go to work. And for the farmers, in terms of the labor, there have been shortage, highly shortage. And when there's a fact in labor, so less production will be produced. So that's what happened in the early of this COVID-19. And then again, it also highlighted the crop production. Global cereal prospect for 2020 are overall favorable. And then we have also livestock sector that reduce access to animal feed, and also diminished capacity of slaughterhouses because of the logistical constraint and also labor shortage in China. And then because of transport restriction as well. And again, the shortages of labor and food supply chain disrupted, blockage the transport route, particularly the obstructive for fresh food supply, and also result in increased level of food loss and waste. So that's what affected in terms of on the supply side. And then on the demand side, so at the beginning, the disease significant increase in demand, because when the MCO happened, everybody stays at home. When we stay at home, it means that we are close to our fridge. Okay, not taking that as an indicator as well, but most of us, we have to stay at home. So when you stay at home, it means that you have the whole family, bigger people to feed, and that also will increase the demand of food supply in your house. So when this COVID-19 happened, when we stay inside the house, the food demand is also increasing from time to time, exponentially, even up until now. So this consumption, because it's also limited, we have the demand is getting higher, but when it comes to the supply side, like I said before, in previous slide, it has been affected terribly. So the demand is there, it's getting higher, but in terms of the supply side, it can't meet the demand. So that's what happened. The interconnection between the demand and also the supply side. And then food demand in the poorer countries, that is income elastic, they have loss of income earning opportunities that could cause consumption to contract, which means that they don't have access to food because they are not financially stable. And then we have aversion behavior, fear of contagion. This could exacerbate effect on food consumption through reduced visit to food markets. So when COVID-19 started, most of us, we are feeling insecure of going to open places because we're scared that we might get affected by COVID as well. So hence, we have limited our visits to the food markets. And then it also, in demand side, is expected to have shift in purchasing modalities, where there is lower restaurant traffic. Not many people are going to dine in a restaurant. And then increased e-commerce deliveries, like what we have here in Malaysia. We have the Grab Food, we have Foodpanda, we have Bungkusit, all those things. So we are relying on those food delivery to send us the food. And then the biggest problem for import dependent countries, like for Malaysia, we import more than 70% our food, and from the local side is only 36%. And we are really depending on import at the moment. So these are the issues on the demand side. Next slide, Hannah. So the disruptions are still in the disruptions component. So this picture was the first announcement made by our Prime Minister, the first MCO taken place on the 18th of March. So when the first week of the implementation of the MCO, our food supply chain, particularly those in urban areas, were disrupted due to the restriction on traffic and market opening hours. And we have food supply to the cities, Malaysia, that rely on land transport, like lorries that carry products from farm. For example, vegetables and fruit lorries from Cameron Highland, and then they've been what we call that, we're not able to send the food supply to the cities because of this COVID. And then the farm products are transported to wholesale markets before they are distributed to be sold in shop, malls, and markets. So this again connected to the second point just now, when MCO took place. This transport of food transportations were disrupted because all of us have to stay in the house, and then the lorries are not able to deliver food or their produce on time, and also there's a disruption in between the chain from farm to the consumers, or from farm to the wholesalers and retailers. And in addition to that, there are local wet and night open markets, whereby the food products sold are mainly from smallholder farms located on the outskirts of the cities. So these farmers usually bring their products directly to the local open markets to sell. So what happened is that for the small farmers, they did some initiative. Instead of relying on the transportation, they make some initiative by opening up their own stand store and sell to the locals, to their neighbors, those kind of things. So that's what happened in early of March, between March and April. Next slide, Hannah. So this is taken from several online news. As you can see, here we have the excess vegetables at market that go to waste because of this COVID-19. And then we had tons of fishes at jetties where stranded because there are no wholesalers or retailers that coming to take up the delivery. And then we also have problems with our beloved bread, gardenia, where certain states in Malaysia was being cut down the number of supply of gardenia. And then we also have this fruits dump as well. And in this news, it was highlighting about 10,000 tons of fresh fruit have been dumped only in Klang Valley. So those things happened when COVID-19 started to take place at the early of MCO. Next slide, Hannah. And then with the sudden imposition of MCO, what happened to the supply chain is that the local open markets was hugely affected as well. This is like pasar malam or night market, and you have also a wet market. So due to the difficulty in exercising social distancing in those markets, they were not allowed to open during the lockdown. So at first it was allowed, but by following certain rules that set by the authority. But what happens that, you know, we Malaysians, when we go to market, we got very overwhelmed with the whole situation. Like everybody in hurry, you know, they don't want to spend more time in the market, you know, shopping and being exposed to the air, to the COVID. So everybody was rushing and they forgot about the SOP that they have to take while they're in those places. So what happens that the authority decided to close those markets, and again, these have disrupt the whole chain of our food supply chain for especially for those who are staying in urban cities, because we're relying on this market to get our fresh produce. And then on one end of this food supply chain, there were multiple reports of farmers giving away or dumping their farm produce due to the perishable nature of the produce. Just like the previous slide where I highlighted about this fish landings at jetties. So they have to perish away. And what happened in Lumut in the news just now was they distribute those fresh fish to locals, and they even have a bartered system among the vegetables, fresh produce, to exchange between fish and also the vegetables and fruits. And on the other hand, this also not only affected to the producers, but also on the consumers, especially the foreign workers, refugees, and those from lower income groups, which facing difficulties in accessing food to meet their daily dietary requirements. So what happened is that when this supply chain being disrupted by COVID-19, so when this happened, it affected the supply, the food supply chain. But at the same time, we, the consumers, the foreign workers, the laborers, you know, they're having a difficulty of accessing to the food, because one, there's not enough food for them to purchase. Another thing is that because of the financially, because when this COVID-19 took place, there are almost 30% of more than 30% lost their job. And that means that they don't have enough, or they don't have a very stabilized financial. So that affects their access to the food and the dietary that they need daily. Because I mean, when this food supply chain been affected, that means less option for them to purchase food. Meaning, if before this they can purchase this easily from, you know, whether short distance stall or groceries or night market, and when all this night market and wet market has been shut down, so they don't have access to that. So when they don't have access to that, it means that they have to, their options is either to go bigger hypermarket or supermarket to get their food. So, and we know that certain item, the price is higher than the one is in you know, at the farm level or at the market level fresh produce. So those kind of things affected not only in terms on the supply side, but also on the demand side. And this MCO also created panic demand from consumers, where we started to stock up our food supply for future consumption. Even though the government keep on, you know, announcing and telling us on the news, on the TV, everywhere, that we have enough food supply, the food security is in order. But of course, I mean, who can blame people, you know, because this is our experience of having this kind of pandemic that's been happening in Malaysia. So we don't have enough experience on how to overcome this. So to be panic about this food supply, so it's kind of normal. But again, I mean, I would like to highlight at the moment, even last 2 weeks when I did my presentation on food security, I did highlight that we do have enough food. The food supply in Malaysia are unstable. So the access, the availability, everything is unstable. So we don't have to be panic about the whole situation. But this only happened, I think, this only happened when at the early stage of COVID-19. So everybody was panicked. They start to stock up their supply, and then this, because of the action, this caused the artificial shortage, as producers were not able to respond fast enough because not much lorries can transport the fresh produce from farm to the supermarket, to hypermarket, or to the rest of the area. And then because of this restriction movement, and then this lead to an increase of 30 to 50% vegetable prices at the retail market. So this again affected for those who are coming from a lower income group. And like I said, I mean, some of us are fortunate enough to be able to still support the cost of food supply, but some of us have been terribly affected because of these high prices, between 30 to 50% when COVID took place and caused disruption in between the food supply chain. Next slide, Hannah. Okay, so this is from Department of Statistics Malaysia about how COVID affected the industry. And again, I would like to highlight the highest or the industry that been most affected by this COVID-19 is agriculture and services, because for agriculture, it has been affected in terms of percentage is 21.9%, and for services is 15%. And then in agriculture sector, especially the fishery sector, it has, affected the workers, where 33% have lost their job because of this COVID-19. And then in the services sector, as in food, they have lost 35.4% in terms of the workers lost their job, and then 18.7% in terms of transportation, and also this what we call that storage. So the whole sector of agriculture and its services had been crucially affected by this COVID-19. And this can be shown, can be seen in the next slide, where Dozen have come out with a table of how many hours they're working from home, how many of them, in terms of percentage, how many of them have been cut down half of their payment or their salary, and then some of them have to take unpaid leave, and then percentage of those who have lost their jobs, and then how many hours have been cut down during this MCO, and then when there's a what we call that, when the people who are lost their jobs, those who still have the jobs have to cover up, have to cover the hours for those who have lost the job. So this is meant by the second last column, jumlah jam bekerja bertambah. So it means that those who are still working, they have to put more hours, working hours, to cover up those that been released from the job. And then only 13.7 in agriculture sector that does not have the impact, and it's not stated here which services that does not have impact. But I can, from the table, if you can see that peternakan or livestock does, sorry, In terms of forestry, they don't have so much impact during this COVID-19 because the percentage is 21.8%. So this is to summarize how the whole, not just the food supply chain, but the whole agriculture sector been affected by COVID-19, not only from the what we call that, from the supply side, the producers, the wholesalers, the retailers, but also in terms as in, you know, those who are involved in the sector itself being affected. Next slide, Hannah. So from all this happening, up until our RMCO, Recovery Movement Control Order, that we are facing now. So what we have learned when we started in March, and now it's already in October, for almost 7 months. So first that I would like to highlight is that we are not well prepared for a shock in food supply management. This is understandable because again, as I said earlier, we as Malaysian, this is our first time to face such pandemic that not only affected our living, but it affected the food that we, the access to the food, access to our work, those kind of thing. It affected the whole system of our livelihood. And some experts, they have concluded that the future of agriculture is going to be rough, owing to climatic factors, resource depletion, growing complexities in market dynamics, and others. So we have uncertainty and instability are important parameters in the production equation. Meaning here is that now we don't have, at the moment, the impact is not as crucial yet, even though we feel that this is quite big. But if this continues, the pandemic continues, you know, a longer period, this will happen. And because of the climatic factors, now in the East Coast, we have these monsoons. So those things, you know, will affect. It will like a double. We have a doubling effect or shocks to the whole system, food system especially. So that is what meant by expert. And then second thing is that the MCO reveals that migrant labor has become indispensable in our food supply system because it presents every level of the supply chain, from farm and logistic, transport and storage, to wholesale and retail. Every single component of this involve labor. So we have the Rohingyas case at Selayang wholesale market recently, on the opened up at Pandora's box. They have so much things going on there. Not only there are menial workers, but there are also traders and wholesalers. So we have pharma and also LKIM. They've been trying for years to secure places for local traders and fishermen, but what happens that it doesn't really work well because those market was, the objective was to open up for our local producers, wholesalers and retailers to be able to sell their products. But now it has been controlled by these immigrants, Rohingyas. So those are one of the issues that have been happening. And they also have licensed owners at the Chowkit wholesale market, are rarely there, but the stalls are rented to Bangladeshi or Indonesian workers. So this kind of things are the thing that we have to look into this, and you know, something which we have to rely on the government on the actions that should be taken to curb down more outsiders taking over these kind of places. And then third, it is clear that food is needed in peacetime and more so in a crisis. So there's a study made by e-commerce analytics company, which is the brand IQ. They shows that during this COVID-19 pandemic, the top 100 products that sold online are food items. So you just imagine like all this while you've been shopping a lot of, especially for the ladies, the shoes, the handbags, you know, now those are no longer important. They are no longer on top of the list. So we are now into food. Everybody is purchasing organic food, you know, those dietary organic food, those kind of things. So food are the most critical item when people are purchasing online. It's now on top of the list. Next slide. And again, here, the supply and demand can be matched by data. Data is very important. China and South Korea, they have shown the way in addressing the supply chain disruption by using ICT and big data to monitor the movement of people and goods. So what, in order to have this, there are some requirements in terms of comprehensive data set, in terms of the players, this including the producer, transporter, wholesaler, retailer, and so on. And then the health status of the players, the quantity of supply, and then the distribution by quantity and locality, and the timing of flow, and so on. Those things are the data. So I would say that data plays an important, major role, crucial thing at this moment, because again, this can be matched. Supply and demand can be matched easily when you have the data, enough data. So here I would like to highlight in the picture, this is an Indian guy in India, where he come up with artificial intelligence, where he called it that object next to him is FASA. So FASA is is a, what we call that, it's like a, not a robot, but it's an automatic control of the data at the farm, where it knows, it can, what we call that, it can predict the weather, it can control how much water and how much water that need to be spread around the farm. Is there any pesticide problem? Those kind of things. So that facile AI can do that from his laptop, from this Indian guy laptop, and it can, you know, does not relying on labor, as in physical labor, to do that in farm. So which I think this is something that we Malaysians should heading to, not because to cut down the number of labor to make it worse, but I mean, we still can hire labor, but at the same time, we need to have these kind of things to assist us to have more, to have better farm management. Again, data plays a major role and it's crucial in this kind of thing. Yes, yes, Anna.
Sorry, do you happen to know if this guy receive government funding ataupun dia bangunkan teknologi tu dengan dia punya own duit dia sendiri?
Okay, good question, Hannah. This guy is not something that he not from government funding, but this is on his own initiative through cooperative that they have within the community in that village. So they have their own cooperative. Again, I would like to highlight cooperative is very beneficial. And for our farmers, not many of them, you know, really agreed about this cooperative. But cooperative, if you manage it very well, it will benefit especially the community and for those who are enrolled under that cooperative. So for example, this guy, he is president of this cooperative, one of the cooperative in a small district in India, and he has a background in agriculture, And then one of his good friend who has a background in IT, so they work together. His part was by giving input in terms of all the agriculture data, and his friend managed to come up with this, you know, what we call that, this FASA, and they work together. Within 1 year, they come up with this technology or artificial intelligence, and now it benefits not only to their farms, but also to those farmers who are enrolled under the cooperative. So they've been using this now. So just imagine if India can do this, you know, at the rural area, where the number or the percentage of illiteracy is very low. And then there are, you know, in India, the transportation, the linkages between one village to another is really far. So imagine if they can do this, so does our farmers in Malaysia. Because our farmers in Malaysia, especially, I believe that each of us, we owned a gadget or mobile phone. So there's no reason, no way that we are not able to come up with this, you know. So it's just a matter of the initiative and the effort and the commitment, how passionate a person, you know, in their work, especially in agriculture. So I think that would determine how far a farmer can go and how far wholesalers or retailers can go, depending on their passion and the commitment they give for their farm. So that will be my answer to that, Anna. Okay, so next slide, Anna. Okay, again, what we can do is that when we depend so much on foreign labor, when this pandemic happened, it affected us big time. So as proven in land scarce and low population countries such as Israel and the Netherlands, with their technology, they reduced the dependence on menial labor. So currently there are many technological solutions available. We, again, like I say, for us, Malaysian only needs to customize them to fit into our local conditions. The technology is out there, but how are we going to take that into the country and apply to the farmers or to the farm is up to us. Again, we don't have to wait for any grant or any subsidies from the government. We can start doing this by having a small technology just to accommodate the condition that we have in our farm. You know, people always say one solution does not fit all. So you have to think, or you have to list down wherever things, the trouble, the conditions that you have in your farm or at the market level. What are the things that has been bugging the whole system? And from there, you can take further step on how to overcome those problems, or how to have, what are the solutions to overcome the problem at the farm level, at the market level, and also even for us consumers. We have to, usually if you go to big supermarket and now you have RMCO where you don't have access because of this RMCO, you have to find solutions where else to get. You can't rely on getting from one place, and once it's there's a roadblock, you won't be able to purchase it. Those kind of things, options. You always have options. If there's any option, if there aren't any options, you have to think where else you can get. And there's another way. I've mentioned this 2 weeks ago during the food security presentation. Urban agriculture, where you can plant your own vegetables or fruits in a not even having a small land. Even if you're staying in an apartment or condominium, you still can plant it in a small pot. So start small, and sooner or later you have more. So that's the idea of urban agriculture. So and those are one of the things that we can do to rely less on not just the labor, but also the option of the access to food, to fresh food. Next slide, Hannah. Okay, this is something that I've read through about this Porter's 5 forces. This is something would benefit to the farmers, to the market level, especially, I mean, as in overall for those who own business, small business, especially in food producers, processors. So these Porter's 5 forces are the things or the key indicator to highlight if you want to start up a business or you want to start up a product or to start up a farm. These are the things that you have to look into. Whether you have threat of new entrants, for example, like if you want to plant a cocoa tree, what are the threats? We know that the demand outside, especially in Europe countries, everybody loves eating chocolate. So the demand is high. But at the same time, we know the risk of planting cocoa. There's a disease, the black cock disease that have a hole within the cocoa fruit. So what happens that not many of us are willing to venture into this cocoa industry. So those are the threats. But for those who have experience, for those who are exposed enough about what are the disease that the cocoa have, how to overcome the disease, you know, those threats can be overcome. So, and that will be a good, what we call that, a good product for you to plant, because like I said, not many people are willing to take the risk into cocoa industry because of this disease, because the rest of the trees where you have to chop down all the cocoa trees. So those are the threats that you need to highlight if you want to start up a business of a product or a farm. And then you have a threat of substitutes. So for example, like you have Stella, potato. So you have potatoes, you have sweet potato. So sweet potato, we know there are several varieties. In Malaysia, we have, I think, 11 varieties of sweet potatoes. So so this substitutes, if you plant the purple sweet potato and your neighbor plant the orange sweet potato, so you have the substitute to that, and you are not in control about, you know, having several varieties nearby, because, you know, when wholesalers or retailers, those who are interested in buying the sweet potato from you, if you put on a higher price, they will say like, oh, look, we can always buy from your neighbor, even though it's an orange sweet potato, but still it's a sweet potato. We're not buying from you since you put a higher price. So those kind of substitute threats that you have to look at, you know. And then you have competitive rivalry. Again, if you're selling the same product, if you're opening up the same farm, the same tree, the same plants with your rivalry, it means that you are not in control of that product. You're not in control of what you're going to produce, because the wholesalers and retailers, they can demand from you in terms of prices, in terms of quantity, because they have options. So those are the rivalry. And then you have the bargaining power of customers. Again, you have to think about your customers, those who are consume your products. So who are your customers? What kind of your customers? For example, that if you have, you know, outside, and especially the trend that we have these days, everybody is going for, you know, organic product, going into a very serious dietary consumption thing, because, you know, staying at home makes you gain more weight if you don't watch out, you know, whatever things that you consume. So everybody tends to buy, you know, a dietary fresh produce that will meet to their consumers' requirement. So, you know, customers, they have the demand, you know, what kind of products that they want to eat, what kind of products that they want to consume. And you as a person, as a farmer or as a business person, wholesaler or retailer, you want to meet to that kind, and you want to have that kind, that power, that you can control the consumers. For example, not many farmers are selling the organic fresh produce, because one, you have to have, in terms of a very controlled environment, because this will affect on you know, the pesticide level, those kind of things. So if you can come out with an organic product, it means that you have a certain group of customers, you have a certain control group of customers, and where everything that you sell, you know, there's always people to buy your product. So this is meant by bargaining power of customers. And then you have bargaining power of suppliers. So as a supplier, you can demand, like you can put how much amount of fresh produce that you can give to the market, you know, that you can sell it to the wholesalers or retailers. So those kind of things, not the other way around, where the wholesalers or retailers or the consumers, they the one who decide for you how much they want from you. So these 5 things that you have to look into if you want to start up a farm, or if you want to start venture into a business, all kind of business. But today we are focusing on food. So I'm guessing, like you know, especially for those small farmers, you know, at this RMCO, I know your selling has been limited, you know, the options have been limited. So you have to look into this, and you have to list down wherever things that have been affected your system of you know, where you're farming, where you're selling, those kind of things, and to come up with the solutions. And I'm sure that you know, when you have a good list of this, you can easily think of a solutions. And for the government, even Mafi, they have put some aside of money to help the small farmers, and you know, for the small farmers or the wholesalers and retailers, again, there's technology to it. If you can watch YouTube, or you can watch Netflix on your phone, you can also Google what kind of you know, help that the government can provide, especially at this kind of situation that we have in Malaysia. So yeah, next slide, Hannah. So my last slide here is that the biggest MCO revelation of all this been happening, it shows the true colors of our food security situation, indeed. So not only there is a problem with the food availability, but affordability and nutrition security, particularly among the informal sector workers and daily wage earners, because they cannot afford food for the family. Their children will suffer from malnutrition, which in turn may affect their physical growth. So the divide in society has never been so clear-cut. So I mean, as a human, I mean, if you notice this around you, I mean, help them. I mean, sometimes they don't say out loud, but I mean, if you notice it, help them, just to let or to lift up some burden from them, especially when they have kids. So that's why I always tell my friends and family, support your local producers in terms of, you know, sometimes they have come out with the cakes, you know, kuih muih, you know, so with their own product, being creative, you know, during this so some of them have lost job, so they have to take up all these kind of things, you know, to keep on survive, and especially to feed their small children. So those kind of things that we can do as Malaysian. And I know we Malaysian, we have the soft side of us. We always help people in trouble. So there's always there always you know, things that we can do. Nothing in this world that Malaysia cannot do. So we always can do things in a way that no other countries, even the developed countries, you know, have this kind of closeness between Malaysians like we are. So with that, I think that's the end of my slide. Hannah?
Thank you,
Right.
Doctor. Thank you so much
Okay.
for the very well researched presentation. So I like
Thank you.
your idea and findings about the function of cooperative dekat India yang membantu these farmers, traditional farmers, to use AI and data to support their farming activities, and I think maybe we should emulate that in Malaysia, sebab we keep on saying that kenapa this farmer tak guna teknologi, and
Yes.
kita tak faham yang this farmer actually ada concern daripada segi cost, nak minta kerajaan semua kan. So maybe this cooperative idea boleh membantu diorang lah untuk memakai teknologi semua. Okay, so Doktor, in your opinion, what is the future of supply chain?
Okay, just now we saw the framework of difference between the traditional food supply chain, the conventional, and also the modern food supply chains. It's a very complex system, but in future, recently I came across this article about this a guy. They call it a genius fellow research in I think McKinsey. So he's in US. So he came out with the idea of vertical farming. I think I have in the slide, Hannah. Yes. So Dr. Dixon Despomier. So he the one who came up with this idea of vertical farming, where he said that it will cut down the amount of chain of the food supply chain into just two, where the farm straight into the supermarket or hypermarket or to the consumers. So it just like 2 steps away, you know, not by relying on the wholesalers or retailers or the marketers, you know, those kind of things. So he come up with this idea of vertical farm, and you see the traditional supply chain. You have from farm, the collections, processing, distribution, wholesale, and then the market, where this vertical farm, it will only have ultra short supply chain. So from plant production unit, it's in vertical form, and then straight to the market or to the consumers. And again, this is something in future that, you know, something that Malaysia, we can look into. But again, I mean, this is in US. Of course, it's a developed country, and they have enough fund for R&D and also fund to start up this kind of things, because to start up something like this in Malaysia, it will cost a lot, because it will need a big land to build up this vertical building, where you have levels of plants, and then this building will be will be controlled, temperature controlled in terms of the environment that suit the plants, and then it will also have a certain pH level of air within the area to control, to avoid any, you know, pests that will affect, or disease that can affect the plant. So those kind of things will cost a huge amount of money to those who wanted to study. But again, I say it is something that, you know, maybe we can look into. And in fact, from this vertical farm, I can relate it closely to what has been happening around here in Malaysia. You know, it's not in a vertical, but we already started out like a hydroponic. So some hydroponic like is in you know, vertical structure, and then it's in a very controlled environment where they have like a greenhouse to have you know, in certain closure area, and from the farm they sell this fresh produce at the gate. It means that just outside the farm, and there's always demand to that, because usually the local people around the farm, they know about, you know, the quality of the fresh produce. So this is something that actually we already started. It's just that not as in a big, humongous structure. So I think this is what we are looking at. Probably another 10 years, hopefully. And, you know, we started, even for us in Malaysia, we already started to realize how important R&D is, especially in agriculture, because this R&D will help us to yield, or to have more production, to improve our production, fresh produce production, in order for us to meet our demand, our local demand, our country demand. And we will have less import, less relying on import, and less, you know, relying on those outside product. So those kind of things. So that's what we're going to look at, Hannah, I think in 10 years time. Hopefully we still have time to long enough.
Saya nampak vertical farming kan, dia macam some sort like sustainable farming jugalah, sebab dia kurangkan penggunaan tanah kan doktor kan, sebab dia buat
Yes. Yes, it is that the amount of land area to build up that building structure that will cost a lot and need a certain area that to come up with that, because vertical farm you cannot simply build up in the center of a city, those kind of thing, unless there's a space to that, and I can't see if we want to have this in KL. Just imagine, in between the pavilion, those giant Times Square, those kind of thing, and you have this vertical farm. But it will be amazed to have one in future. Hopefully we have one. Yeah. And I think even for small farmers, like maybe they can, besides relying on paddy, for example, paddy, it has 2 seasons every year. They can start up a small farm like a vegetables, those kind of thing in a very controlled environment, to support the cost of living during this RMCO. And in fact, they can continue this even in future, and that will be a huge benefit in terms of increasing their monthly income salary. Yeah.
Okay, for those attendees yang want to ask question, boleh type dekat Q&A section on your screen. Okay, sementara kita tunggu question tu, kita ada dapat a few questions from our friends lah. So,
Okay.
Dia tanya, what can we do to improve food distribution?
Okay, again, Hannah, I've mentioned during my presentation just now, to improve the food distribution is one, of course, in terms of from the authority side, less burdened on the transportation, meaning not to be so rigid in terms of taking time, to check the whole lorry, those kind of things, because it will reduce the freshness of the products, especially the vegetables and also fruits, because you can see these lorries, especially when they transport fresh produce, usually at the very early in the morning. So, and you can see they are rushing because they have deadlines, they have time that have to meet, especially if they're sending to the supermarket and hypermarket. So if when it comes to roadblocks, if it's taken longer time, the fresh produce is exposed to more warm temperature. We know Malaysia is really warm country, warm people as well. So it will affect the freshness, the quality of the fresh produce. So that is one of the thing. Second thing is that that is for big farms, for the big owners farm and those people who owns their own lorries. But for the small farmers, how to improve their distribution is now I think we already have an online app. For example, like Shopee, Lazada, they start selling fresh produce online. So I think for smallholders, small farmers, if you have if you're some of them they are quite age, so they are a bit lacking behind in terms of about this app or whole thing, but they can always ask for younger ones to help them how to set up or to register this online app, and so that they can sell it through online. And then this online will only the distribution will be just within the area locally. So one of the things that they can do, because we now are relying on technology, everybody's using technology, not to be able to be outside is no longer something that will make you bored. You have so much things that you can do online, not just watching movie or reading news whatsoever, but there's so much things that you can do, venture new things like business, to promote how you market your product, so those kind of things. So I think those two are another options how to improve the distribution of fresh produce, not just by relying on the one transportation from the wholesalers or retailers or whatsoever that involved, but to venture into more options into how to distribute your own product. So yeah.
I guess that is where bagi saya lah, trade association ke, pertubuhan peladang ke, pejabat pertanian should play
Yes.
getting this tradition
Yes.
to adopt teknologi kan, Doktor kan?
Yeah. Well, actually, Hannah, I think I mean in each state we have
Pejabat pertanian.
ada their own persatuan. So this persatuan, they have pegawai extension yang boleh bagi training kepada kepada petani kecil, dari segi penggunaan teknologi, dari segi penanaman pokok. Cumanya masalah sekarang, I think kekurangan tenaga pekerja. Those kind of things. And then again, we are back to technology. So I hope that the authorities will come up with something like an app that can be installed in the phone, like okay, nak tanam, contohnya nak tanam, macam minggu lepas ada orang cakap pasal buluh kan, pokok buluh. So nak tanam pokok buluh, ini cara dia, based on plants, what kind of plants that you can plant within the area of your house or within the area in your kampung, something like that. So those plants ada dia punya tu, okay, ini jenis tanah dia, ini dia punya tempoh matang pokok, ini banyak mana baja yang perlu ada, those kind of things. It helps because now we're having a very serious labor issue in Malaysia, not just in agriculture sector, but also in other sector as well. So we are now relying on technology, so much on technology that you can do. So we have to go to that, to that point where, to solve, I think, most of the problems that we're facing at the moment.
Okay, I don't see any question from the audience, but before we wrap up, Doctor, can we address one more question?
Okay.
Regarding macam last week, Doktor ada share about 4 pillars of food security kan? So one is accessibility. So the question is, apart from being accessible to getting food, being affordable is equally important. Due to the supply of food, this leads to an increase in food price by natural market forces. Beef is most vulnerable in this situation. So how do we ensure stability in food price during the crisis?
Okay, so it's all about to make sure the price is stable during this crisis. Okay, one of the thing that our government, especially to highlight Kementerian KPDN KPDN HB. KPDN HB. So they have they have been monitoring the prices, food prices especially, so that all the consumers can purchase their food and access to the food at at a stable price, instead of people like sellers that are taking advantage of this situation to cover up the cost that they have to bear, those kind of things. So I mean, at the moment in Malaysia, I think the price is in control, where we don't really see so much cases where sellers are taking advantage. There are some cases, but I think overall in terms of like harga ayam, harga sayur ke, harga buah, those kind of things, I think they are in the well controlled punya environment at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you so much everyone for attending our webinar series on food supply chain, the impact of COVID-19 on Malaysia food supply chain. So for those of you who enjoy this kind of webinar, we actually have a Facebook. It's called RURB. So you can see the recordings of our previous webinars on food security and this recording of webinar. And also we will keep you updated on the next webinar. So thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum and have a good weekend. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Bye.
Doctor. Thank you. Bye.